I would like to open the Santa Barbara Unified School District's Board of Education meeting for February 9th, 2016. Dr. Cash, would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Please stand. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you,
Buenas
Dr.
tardes.
Cash. Go ahead.
Buenas tardes. Tenemos interpretación al español por si alguien gusta escuchar la reunión en español. Gracias.
Headsets are also available for the hearing impaired. Please indicate if you need one. Introductions, proclamations, presentations, or recognitions. Dr. Cash.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Lily McIntyre from Santa Barbara High School is here with us this evening to provide the student board report. Welcome, Lily.
Sorry. So for La Cuesta, their bio students will be learning about ecology. The class is being co-led by a senior UCSB student, Abraham Lizama, a graduate from Alta Vista. Students are going to travel to UCSB to learn about the campus and some sustainable practices taking place on the campus. They'll make a stop at the Reef Marine Lab to learn about local sea creatures as well. Students with IEPs are planning a field trip to SBCC on Friday to see the programs offered there. Happening for the first time at La Cuesta, students participating in SKILLS will earn dual enrollment credit. SKILLS stands for School Kids Investigating Language and Life in Society. It's an innovative program that prepares and motivates California's public school students for higher education by giving them hands-on experience in studying language and culture. The Gay Straight Alliance has Patrick Lyra Kearns, an outreach advocate for the LGBTQ community, visiting on February 18th. Their focus will be to educate their student body on LGBTQ community issues and welcoming new students to La Cuesta to the club. Alta Vista Middle College students are reading a book in common, Brave New World. On February 19th, students are going to participate in the ropes course at UCSB. For Dos Pueblos, Senior Parent Night is February 17th to discuss the end-of-the-year activities. Beautify DP begins February 20th, and the leadership class is preparing for air bands in the Greek in early March. Short dances and skits are being performed at lunchtime, and the school is also celebrating Black History Month. Social Awareness is teaming up with the Social Equity Club to work on issues regarding transgender students on campus. San Marcos High School is starting their CIF Southern Section Championship season for winter sports such as boys basketball, girls soccer, girls water polo, and they're all participating in their own divisions, and girls soccer and water polo are being one of the top seeds in their division. February 16th through 19th is Diversity Week for the LGBTQ community, and Speak Against Hate clubs are leading various activities to promote understanding of various diversity issues. And Friday, March 4th, San Marcos is hosting a wellness day with various activities being presented in the quad promoting healthy lifestyle choices. For Santa Barbara High School, on February 13th, the Donettes are going to Los Angeles for a regional competition, which they placed third in last year. Winter Formal is next Saturday, the 20th, and the theme is Under the Sea. It will be held on campus. And Pennies for Patients is being run through February. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lily. Great job. A couple other items to report on. Santa Barbara Community Academy is preparing for its 2016 Core Knowledge Showcase, which will be on March 3rd from 6 o'clock till 7. In a great announcement, Santa Barbara High School's Computer Science Academy just received a $20,000 grant that will enable the program to transition from startup to a sustainable long-term component for our community's educational opportunities. There is still time to sign up for the free film screening of West to the West, and the film will be shown on Sunday, March 6th at 2 p.m. in the Arlington Theater. It's a great family film about the Channel Islands, and if you're interested, simply call our office and we'll give anyone the opportunity to go to that. And a reminder that this weekend is an extended holiday. Our schools and district office will be closed on Friday through Monday, February 15th, in honor of Presidents Lincoln and Washington. And that concludes the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Dr. Cash. Board comments and correspondence. Mr. Herron.
Yes, thank you. I'll just comment, Adelante had their board meeting last night, and they continue to do very well. I noticed that at the public library, there is a collection of artwork by Adelante from the ICANN program, so stop by the public library. Well, back east, I happened to, in the New York Times, there was a great article about a philanthropist drills down to discover why programs work in the New York Times, and in it, it highlights Jennifer Freed, the executive director of the AHA program here in Santa Barbara, and they're trying to determine what causes grit, empathy, and perseverance, which studies show that can be determinants of future success. So one of our programs in the New York Times, and being highly supported, is very good. And then I happened to pick up the Sentinel today, and there's a great article in the Sentinel by Jacqueline DeLong highlighting our VADA program in the arts and music. And if you recall, she spoke to us a couple meetings ago during public comment. But it's a really good article about our long-range plan for visual arts. And Donna Ranzoni, and very highly supportive of arts and music in our schools. So pick up a copy if you haven't read it. Thank you.
Ms. Idelson.
Mention that last week I attended the Music of the Night at Santa Barbara High, and it's their 16th season, a completely student-directed performance, and very enjoyable, and just recommend it each year. It comes around, and lots of fun to see the students act and students directing them.
I would like to add that myself and I think Mr. Herron and Ms. Idelson and Ms. Parker actually as well attended the Partners in Education breakfast last week, and I think we had a number of district staff as well attend. Dr. Cash, you were there as well. A few of our principals as well, and that was a great event. And for all of those who are not aware of what Partners does, not only do they present possibilities of students learning more about career choices, they also involve a lot of volunteers in our schools and teachers' classrooms, and it's just a great organization. Along with that, they do Computers for Families, which Mr. Herron actually has been quite involved with since the beginning. So that's been a great organization for quite a long time. The other thing I had the opportunity to do was actually I attended my niece's DP versus Santa Barbara High School girls soccer game last week. So that was great, and had an opportunity. I don't often get to do it because she plays in the middle of the day and I'm working. So this time was a little bit later, so it was great. They unfortunately lost to Santa Barbara, so congratulations, Santa Barbara. They lost 3-0. She is the goalie, by the way, so very proud uncle I am. Any other comments? Thank you, board. We will move on to acceptance of donations. Oh, I'm sorry. I jumped ahead. Announcement of closed session action. We have nothing to announce. Public comments on non-agenda matters within the jurisdiction of the Board of Education. Ms. Idelson.
We have 3 public comments cards. If anybody hasn't turned in a speaker card and would like to on this early-ish matter or later ones, those are available over in the corner. First, we have Kenneth Locke.
So
And 3
you're aware that the clock isn't functioning up there.
So you have 3 minutes.
Give me a 30-second
Yes.
warning and all that.
Right.
I believe Dr. Dradi will give you the
Yes, I'll announce
the
it
30 seconds.
within 30 seconds. So.
Thank you.
My name is Kenneth Locke. Just here, I went before the City Council today, and I mentioned the basis of being healthy versus being sick. And when it comes to health, I think that everybody would agree that it would be good that all the kids become healthy. actually know what it means to be healthy. And when it comes to athletics, as well as the arts, fine arts, and then interdisciplinary, but when it comes to tennis, who I'm claiming to be is actually the first, say, teacher healer of tennis in relation to a healthy relationship. And then the basis of me being a healer is based on I'd be sharing healthy knowledge. So it's kind of an honor to actually to be able to pass along, again, healthy knowledge so people can become healthy. And then the basis of that is just when it comes to tennis, learning it, how it's a mind-body exercise. And the basis of what a mind-body exercise is, it's having complete knowledge in relation to the complete exercise. And then I teach tennis as an ambidextrous, holistic health. And to really to understand the mind-body integration, you really have to understand it completely in relation to the whole body. And I kind of finish that and make that available. But it turns out that I have to, as we learn what it means to be healthy, then we can now understand the whole basis of what it means to be sick. And again, I hope everybody agrees that it's good to get these kids so that they can become healthy. And it turns out that I have to kind of expose the reality that the kids currently are not really, they're not being put on course, not on path. And the idea is that competition, the idea is that they're being pushed into competition, and as a result, they just develop their stronger arm. And the whole idea is that they really don't, once they get on that course, it doesn't really bring them to the course to become healthy in relation to developing both arms. And the whole idea of developing a holistic oneness with your whole body type of thing, the whole basis of what holistic health.
You have 30 more seconds.
I'm currently doing some tweets on Twitter. I'm trying to get the attention of the United States Tennis Association and have them embrace this new teaching method for tennis. And I think it's essential that it takes place. Thank you.
Thank you.
And next we have Dan Holmes talking, or excuse me, Dave.
Hi, it's been a while. I'm really proud to announce tonight publicly a new program that is starting to be launched next week on Tuesday, February 16th, with the Granada Theater Organization. The Santa Barbara Center for the Performing Arts Jerkowitz Fellows Program will involve 10 of our students. And will give them an all-day immersion experience in the workings of the professional theater. They will witness a load-in of the producers, which is really exciting for any technician to watch how that gets done. And then they'll have 3 different classes, so to speak, walking them through the different career paths that are available in the professional theater. They'll start with meeting with Craig Springer, the executive director, to talk about some of the nuts and bolts of how these shows even are decided, on what comes to Santa Barbara. And then they'll be walked through marketing and ticketing and all of that. And their day will end with a performance of the producers. And I'm looking forward to this being a really exciting day for these students, these 10 students, because so often students come into a technical theater program and they don't have a career path at all in mind, and they discover it that they love working backstage. And I wanted to try to see if we could get it to the next level and get them familiar with what some of these jobs are, and that there is a viable career path in the professional theater. This started 2 years ago when the Granada Theater invited theater teachers to come together and just talk about what our needs are. After that, Monique Limon asked me if I would be part of the Community Engagement Committee, which is a subcommittee, a standing committee with the Santa Barbara Center for the Performing Arts. And I said yes. And I'm glad I did, because the Granada Theater is really working hard to partner with our community in ways that really haven't been
30
done
more
before.
seconds.
This is good news, terrific news. And I've passed out the cover letter that was sent out a week or so ago, and it says in the letter that there were 8 students, but partly that's my bad math, and also we had a student that joined us late. And I'm really excited that we have 10 students who will be really enjoying this experience. And I hope to come back and give you a report on how it went, and maybe bring some of the students as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I add something? So, and I just want to add, I mean, Mr. Holmes has been such a great teacher in our districts. He retired, and I was like, I know you're retired, but can we get you on one more committee? But I also hope that actually after this experience, maybe we can highlight this experience through e-news. I think it's a great partnership, and I know that a lot of other opportunities are coming forward through a committee. So thank you so much for your service.
All right, and finally, we have Karen McBride with the SBTA resolution. Thank you.
Good evening, board members. I'm Karen McBride. I am an 8th grade teacher at La Colina, and I want to thank you for this opportunity to speak tonight, and I want to thank my outstanding teacher colleagues for being here tonight. I have given Dr. Paz a copy of the Santa Barbara Teachers Association resolution that I'm going to read to you, and along with it, I've given him copies of the signatures of over 500 teachers that have signed it in support. So I'm going to go ahead and read that, and here goes. Santa Barbara Resolution, February 9th, 2016. The Santa Barbara Teachers Association stands united tonight in asking the district to reinstate Curriculum Council. We, the undersigned SBTA unit members, support the following resolution. Whereas teachers must have a voice in curriculum and resources. Whereas teachers need resources to meet our students' needs and support student learning. Whereas current assortment of materials and resources that have been provided to some of us are disjointed and are essentially activities, not curriculum. Whereas teachers need a curriculum foundation to start with that allows us to be more creative in our teaching. Whereas secondary English and social studies teachers have not yet received any resources. Whereas teachers are spending countless hours finding what we need and spending our own money to purchase it. Whereas we continue to provide students with an outstanding education without adequate support to implement Common Core. Whereas the needs of curriculum must be addressed across the district and across disciplines, which cannot happen solely with the PLC structure. Whereas it has become clear that priorities of the Santa Barbara Unified School District do not include providing what we need. And whereas Curriculum Council is a proven structure that will resolve these issues. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the members of the Santa Barbara Teachers Association demands the board take action to reinstate Curriculum Council. Be it further resolved that SBTA members will be active, willing participants to ensure the district provides quick resolution to the current curriculum situation. And I want to end tonight actually by thanking you for hearing these concerns and regarding the need for teacher voices in the selection of curriculum. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We are now moving on to acceptance of donations for February 9th, 2016.
You're so fast, Dr. Paz.
Moving the agenda along.
I would like to move to accept the donations for February 9th, 2016 with gratitude.
I'll second it.
A motion by Ms. Parker, seconded by Ms. Idelson. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
We move on to consent agenda. Board, do we have any items on the consent agenda you would like to pull?
I don't want to pull anything, but I need to recuse myself from the vote on item E5, which is the Human Resources Recommendations List.
Okay.
I'll pull E4. I'll pull E4.
E4. Thank you, Mr. Herron.
And I'll move to approve the remainder of the consent agenda minus items E4 and E5.
I'll second it.
Motion made by Ms. Parker to approve the consent agenda minus items E4 and E5, seconded by Ms. Idelson. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
So we can come back to human resource recommendations. Do we have a...
I will go ahead and move that we pass item E5, Human Resources Recommendations.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Motion made by Ms. Parker, seconded by Ms. Idelson. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Abstain?
Abstention.
Passed 4 with one exemption.
I just have one question on E4, if you want to take the question, unless other people have other things to talk about, but
No, we can take it right now.
my only question is, I recall the last meeting, we discussed making very clear that one session with our advisor would take place as part of the contract, but I don't see that workshop spelled out. Is there a clarification on that?
He's going to start working with you, my understanding is, tomorrow.
Well, you weren't here, so
I was not.
you didn't hear the discussion, but I thought that both Dr. Paz and Ms. Parker wanted to make it very clear that one workshop was included in this contract
And that-
after we select our new superintendent.
That was my understanding as well. Ms. Parker.
And the way I read it now is that they will help with the transition if we request it. And I wasn't sure if that was what they were.
They had
if that's
understood.
that meeting is.
Okay.
Okay.
But
I'm sure you can get it clarified tomorrow evening.
I will move approval of E4, assuming we can get it clarified tomorrow evening.
Okay. Do we have a second?
second?
Motion made by Mr. Herron, seconded by Ms. Parker. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. We now move to a public hearing, but there are no items for public hearing, so we move to the action agenda. First on it is board action on student discipline, case number 2015-16-14.
In case 2015-16-14, I move to approve the findings and recommendations of the hearing panel for a suspended expulsion, and I'm trying to pull up the exact wording right now.
It's a admin expulsion
school
with
year.
enforcement
Ending
suspend. Yeah.
June 2016.
June 2016.
Yes.
Second?
Motion made by Ms. Parker, seconded by Mr. Herron. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next item is board action on student discipline, case number 2015-16-25.
And I will note that that's in a different order than in the summary, and so I will go ahead and move to approve 15-16-25 with a stipulated, for the stipulated agreement for an expulsion with enforcement suspended for one school year ending June 2016.
Second?
Motion made by Ms. Parker, seconded by Mr. Herron. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Next item is board action on student discipline, case number 2015-16-26.
And for that one, I move to approve the stipulated agreement for an expulsion with enforcement suspended for one school year ending June 2016.
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Parker, seconded by Mr. Herron. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Moving on to item number 4, board action on student discipline, case number 2015-16-27.
And in case 2015-16-27, I'll move to approve the findings and recommendations of the Administrative Hearing Panel for an expulsion with enforcement suspended for one school year ending June 2016.
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Parker, seconded by Mr. Herron. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We move on to item number 5, board action petition for readmission of expelled student, case number 2014-15-17.
I'll move accept that we approve the petition for readmission of expelled students in case number 2014-15-17.
Motion made by Mr. Herron.
I'll second it.
Seconded by Ms. Idelson. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 I move we accept the petition for readmission of expelled student, case number 2014-15-45.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Motion made by Mr. Herron, seconded by Ms. Idelson. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. We move on to item number 7, approval of agreement with Learning Ally Incorp. Dr. Cash.
My understanding is this matter is back before you after there were questions at the last board meeting. I believe those questions have been answered. If not, Ms. Rodriguez is here to answer those questions.
And we do have public comment.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right. Cherie Ray? If you-
Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you tonight. An article just is circulating on the internets, and I thought that it might give you a little bit more insight into what Learning Ally can do for an individual student. The title is Mazel Tov, Dyslexic Boy Gives Gifts of Reading to Others Through Bar Mitzvah Project. In first grade, I was told I was dyslexic, begins Joshua, a 12-year-old from Florida. I could not read or understand the written word until third grade. In third grade, it would take me all week to learn my spelling words correctly, and sometimes I could not get them right no matter how hard I tried. I always tried to work harder than the other students. At his young age, he is wise beyond his years. Joshua knows what it is like to be a child who struggles, the child who is behind, the child who wants more than anything else to be just like everyone else, the child who wants to learn. Even though my reading skills have improved greatly, thanks to multisensory instruction, writing and spelling remain very hard, Josh continues. Audiobooks opened a whole new world for me and enjoyed me to enjoy books without stress. For that reason, Josh decided that for his 13th birthday, his bar mitzvah year, he wanted to literally open the world to others by raising money to help Learning Ally support more students and adults who have print disabilities through community events and webinars, as well as an online library of 82,000 human-narrated accessible audiobooks. They've helped me because I have trouble learning. Audiobooks are not cheating. It's just a different way of reading a book, says Josh. His mother, Jennifer, adds through tears, the gift of reading coming from a child who couldn't read, it's such a wonderful thing. He is very close to reaching his goal of $2,500, and many of the donations and messages are coming from his former teachers. Josh, I'm so proud of you and the young man you have become, says one of his teachers. You are an amazing young man. Congratulations on your bar mitzvah and dream big. His response, thank you very much. You are one of the teachers who helped me succeed and a great reading teacher. Love, Josh. His project ends March 12, 2016, and Josh says to give to the cause because dyslexic kids are very smart, but they might need a little extra support and a push to succeed. With your support of this Learning Ally contract, I hope that we'll have many Joshes in our community who will have their reading skills enhanced. And if I have just a teeny bit more time, I can't tell here. I know we have many USC fans here in the audience. I'm one of them, and we have a couple up there. The USC Laboratory of Neuroimaging has just announced that they're doing a dyslexia research study on reading intervention for children ages 10 to 12 who have dyslexia. And they say that participants will receive toys and a digital image of their brain. And there's more information posted on our Facebook page of the Parent Resource Center if you'd like to know any more about that. But it's a great opportunity for local people to take advantage of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Board, do we have any questions, comments on this item?
I just want to
Mr. Hill.
thank staff for revising the language and making it really clear that there is a option-out period at the end of the first year. And I've also been, I think, impressed with the fact that the fundraising involved will be done by Learning Ally for the most part, and hopefully we don't need to spend more general funds on that. But if we need to, it should be an LCAP, as we said last meeting. It should be part of the LCAP process if, in fact, we want to spend more district funds.
Okay.
Ms. Edelson?
I'll make a motion to approve the agreement with Learning Ally.
Second?
Motion made by Ms. Idelson, second by Ms. Parker. All those in favor, please say aye.
Just one question, and maybe Ms. Rodriguez could. Is this a program that we're going to be using more in the elementary district rather than secondary, or is it even in both? Or where will most of the emphasis be on this program, or where has it been for the first year?
It's K through 12.
Well, I know that, but is there more emphasis at the early ages where we know the problem really exists, or are we dealing with current students who have the problem to help them also?
Well, currently, as they identify, it has to go through the IEP process, but I know what you're asking. You want to know if we're going to emphasize this in elementary. Of course we are, but at the same time, we're not going to deny the access to secondary students. And it's from my understanding that it's, as it begins to spread, that students are very pleased with this. Teachers are informing their principals that this is a great thing.
Where has it been mostly used? What schools?
Well, so far it's been, I believe, at let's see, McKinley and Harding, most of the elementary schools, and then the secondary. But to answer your question, as quickly as technology evolves, right now this is great for us, but who knows in 3 years how quickly there may be an app that all students, right now it's limited to our students with an IEP and also 504, but hopefully in 3 years we'll be able to allow other students to access this.
Is this technology they can use at home also?
Yes. If they have if they had an iPad, they would have an app that they would be able to have access. If they have a computer at home, they would be able to access. Right now, it's limited in the classroom.
Do they need a wireless connection to use it, or is it something that is home on the computer itself or the iPad itself?
It would be an app on the computer itself.
That would go through the internet to the web. So we still have that problem we've had with it. Digital divide is now the access.
Yes, but the good news is that they have access during their class time.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome.
Okay.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. We move on to item number 8, approval of agreement with Clifford Moss to provide communication services.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. This item is back with a significant revision with the opportunity to have an expert in communications provide the district and, more importantly, the board and our community with input on the feasibility of a 2016 bond. They will work hand in glove with our polling company and the polling results.
Board, do we have any questions, comments? If not, do we have a motion?
I'll just say again that I want to be careful. First of all, I really appreciate the enormous reduction in scope. I think that's much more appropriate for the current timing where we honestly do not know whether or not we will go for a bond. And I want to be careful, first of all, that we're not stepping on the toes of like what should really be done by an outside agency. And so I think that this has been rewritten in a way and narrowed down in such a way that it's probably appropriate. I want to be super careful to be clear that this is still very preliminary, and if and when we were to vote to go to put a bond on the ballot, that running a bond election would all be taken place by outside organizations, not by the district, as per legal requirements.
Absolutely.
Also, taking cognizant of the fact that there is an Attorney General's ruling just lately that really dictates what can be done and can't be done. I don't think we've crossed that, even come close to that in the past bond or parcel tax, but we need to be aware that it's an issue.
Council is guiding every step of the way.
Any other comments? Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the agreement with Clifford Moss to provide communication services.
Second?
Motion made by Ms. Idelson, second by Ms. Parker. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. We move on to item number 9, submission and approval of the 2015-16 Santa Barbara Unified School District secondary safety plans, with the exception of La Cumbre Junior High, which will be brought forward in a future date.
We'll ask Ms. Wagonet, our Assistant Superintendent of Student Services, to present this item.
Good evening, Dr. Paz, Board. So I present to you the secondary schools safety plans. La Cumbre will be coming forward in 2 weeks with the elementary schools. They had some additions to make to their plan. So I know you've had a chance to look at them, so I think I'll just take questions or comments or make clarifications rather than going through, unless we want to be here really late, going through each plan. So,
Ms. Parker.
I'll just note that, again, it's what we see now is not really the comprehensive school safety plan, but essentially a summary, a brief summary, as opposed to the 130-odd page tomes that we got in, not last year, but years previous to that. And so, you know, perhaps appropriately, since there's a lot around school safety plans that for safety reasons should not be made public, these are pretty limited documents, and, you know, I saw that some of the schools approach them in slightly different ways, but most of them are just following the formula.
and I would say that the part, as I went through them to check for accuracy and anything that stood out, the one thing I was looking at were the component goals that they were setting to see if they're updating each year, and then really having conversations with those schools about their own individual goals in terms of safety, in terms of being welcoming and students feeling safe, parents feeling welcome, that sort of thing.
Mr. Herron.
I would comment, can you just scroll down till you get some of the links in there? Yeah, okay. I think what saved hundreds and hundreds of pages is all those links.
Right.
And I think that's a fantastic step forward. I have not been a fan of all the papers just regurgitating all of the policies. I think this is an easier way, and maybe easier to keep current, too. So that's number one. Thank you very much. And number two, for the most part, they were very good in uniformity, easy to read, and I think that's a step forward. I particularly like the whole section on safe and orderly environment. I think that might be new, and it spells out the goals in a much deeper format, much more readable format, much more inclusive format. I think there was just one school, I forget now what it was, that went back to the old format. I'm not sure why that is. I think there was one. But this, I thought the entire product was exceptional, so thank you very much.
I'll give Mr. Torina the credit for making that big switch a couple years ago, but I agree, being a former principal and assistant principal who's created these plans, this is much more manageable, but as was mentioned, there are the big binders at the schools that still exist, and those are important. So assuming that these will be approved tonight, we will put those on the website tomorrow as soon as they're approved so that families can access them in the community.
Any other questions, Board?
I'll move approval of the 2015-16 Santa Barbara Unified School District secondary safety plans, with the exception of Lacumba Junior High School.
Second?
Motion made by Mr. Herron, seconded by Ms. Parker. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Passed, 5-0.
All right, thank you.
We move to the conference agenda.
President Paz, if we could, at this time, we're going to go with number 1, but we'd like to change the order. Move number 5, which is the presentation and discussion of the iLearn team report, to right after Santa Barbara High School's programs of choice. And then the H4 will not be presented tonight.
Board, I think we could all agree to that. So we will start with the discussion of secondary program of choice reports for Santa Barbara High School.
Governing board members, at the previous meeting, we had the opportunity to review the program of choice evaluation report for Dos Pueblos and San Marcos High School. At this time, we're inviting Santa Barbara High School to come present their information. So we'll start with the Computer Science Academy.
Mr. Becchio.
Thank you, Dr. Paz, board members. If I could just make a few introductory comments. First of all, I want to thank you and express our appreciation on behalf of the directors and actually our school community for the support that you give for programs of choice in our academies. I wanted to share a story with you. Recently, I've led 2 school tours, and one of them was with educators from Denmark, and the other one was a tour of our school with educators from China. And on both those tours, I walked them through the programs, and at the end, they were unbelievably amazed at the opportunities that our students have here and the wide range of program options that they have, not the least of which are our academies and programs of choice. And so it reminded me, and I wanted to tell that story to you, that we should not take for granted what we have in terms of choices for students. Every year I tell our students and families really one simple thing, and that is maybe the most important thing that they can consider as they enter high school is how to get their child connected to something at high school other than math, English, science, and social studies. That is such a critical piece of being successful in high school, and our programs of choice academies are a way in which they do that. And in fact, at our school, they really capture quite a large number of students. And so I wanted to bring that to you as an introductory comment, and thank you for your support of our programs of choice. I also wanted to thank the superintendent and his cabinet, in particular Barbara Kiani, who, when I walked into the showcase of the academies, I was just amazed this year at us having this huge exhibition hall, and all of our programs of choice in the district are represented there. And I spoke with families about how great that event was. And so I wanted to thank Barbara for her planning and the superintendent and his cabinet for the support, and again, your support. So with that, I would like to turn it over to Paul. Did you say CS Academy?
Could I have one question?
Sure.
You mentioned Denmark. Can you tell me what group that was?
That group, I believe, they were visiting UCSB's education program. I think they have some kind of partnership with, it's either Denmark or Norway, excuse me, I don't remember which one it is. But anyways, they were visiting a UCSB, is my understanding, and so they asked if they could do a tour of the school. I think they may have toured DP as well.
What did they think?
They were, like I said, they were just amazed at the American educational high school experience and the opportunities.
It's interesting you say that, because my son has a foreign exchange student living with him back east from Denmark. She's 17 years old. And we were talking about Denmark education. And her comment was she was blown away with the opportunities that our students have. And she said in Denmark, nobody is allowed to compete with each other. It's all on an equal status. Everybody gets the same. In fact, if you try to be better than somebody else or succeed better than somebody else, you're tempered down. It was very enlightening to hear, because we often hear how wonderful education is in Denmark, or and to hear a student's perspective comparing what she's going through at our high schools back in Connecticut versus what she has gone through in Denmark, it's night and day difference. And so thank you for that.
Yes. And so I'll invite up, you said CS Academy first?
Yeah.
I will invite up Paul Moore then. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you. Again, my name is Paul Mull. I'm the director of the Computer Science Academy, and I'm remembering less than 2 years ago when I was up here talking about getting our academy approved. It's been a great year and a half, I guess, since we have been officially approved as an open academy. And so I'd just like to point out a few highlights of what's been happening over those 2 years. Year and a half. Of course, you've read the report a little bit, but you've seen that our numbers have increased. Last year, we had around 150 students. This year, we're closer to 200. A lot of the things that we said we were hoping to do, we've managed to do as well. For example, our diversity action plan was mostly around girls. They are the most underrepresented population in computer science, and our female population has risen from about 18% last year to about 25% this year. So that's really exciting. And there is a variety, depending on which class we're looking at, but one of our unique classes that we have that's different from what other schools are offering is our computational art course. And I'll remind you that that course is unique, not only because students learn how to program while creating computer-based art, but we also have UCF approval for that course. That course, by the way, is 40% girls. And when we brought that course in, that was one of the reasons that we brought that, is because we thought it would be a fun course as well as attractive to girls. So that's a big step. You can also see the other numbers. Our Hispanic population has gone up as well. Our socioeconomically disadvantaged number is up. And so we're going to, our future plans are to continue what we've been doing along those lines. Of course, we, as Mr. Becchio mentioned, participated in the Academy Showcase this year and last as an official academy. This fall also there was a convivio at Santa Barbara High School where a lot of the Spanish-speaking families were brought in, and so we did academy tours for all the academies for that. That was a great opportunity to reach out to that community. We have brochures that we've printed both in English and Spanish that we were able to hand out at that event as well as the showcase event. And another thing that's been really useful, although it's hard to tell the impact yet, just with a year and a half of being online, is that there's been a couple of summer courses that have been run. One specifically targeted at girls, run by a couple of students that I had 2 years ago in my class in my first AP section. And that's been very successful. It's been oversubscribed, and I believe they're going to continue that tradition this summer, so that's a big part of our plan, as well as another course that was run by a couple of my students that is open to both genders. Both of these summer courses are targeted specifically at grades 6 through 8. So there is some research that suggests that girls especially make decisions about whether they want to pursue technical careers at that age level, and so that's a very good age level for us to target. Some of the other things that we've been working on this year and last both are some extras. We have a robust guest speaker program. Once a month we have someone from the community come and at lunchtime and talk to our students, and it's open to the whole school. We have pretty good attendance that usually fill the back of our room. Tomorrow actually is our next guest speaker for this month. The CTO of QAD will be showing up. We've had other local business people, professors from UCSB, et cetera, so that's been very popular. We just got back last weekend from our annual Silicon Valley field trip, where we take our upper-level students who are finishing their time with us on a trip. And again, that was a wonderful trip. Stopped at a couple of university campuses on the way, Cal Poly to begin with, and Santa Clara while we were up there. Last year we did Cal Poly and Stanford. Visit a couple of companies. We got into Facebook this year, another local startup called Peloton Technologies, and also NASA Ames. And we're able to visit the Intel History Museum and the Computer History Museum also. So a great experience, again, described by some students as the best field trip they've ever had. I've also made a lot of steps towards some local field trips, so I've had many meetings and trying to work my way into getting some of the other kids who are in the middle of their career with us to be able to visit some local companies. And so I expect that we'll be doing that this spring. And on top of that, we've also started a conversation with some faculty and graduate students at UCSB just to think about what it is we're doing and what our curriculum is and where we're headed there. So, in fact, we found out that some of the people we're talking with help the DPEA with their self-appraisal. So, working with the same group there. And we're pretty excited about that. I guess at this point I would just leave it up to you to see if you had any other questions for me.
Ms. Parker.
And I'll be brief since I know we only have about 10 more minutes on this item and 2 more people that are going to be talking. So just quickly, I appreciated you bringing up the gender piece because our format doesn't include that right now. It needs to, and so hopefully that will change. It's great to hear because I love there's a photograph last year of when you'd gotten a huge grant of your AP Computer Science class, and I'm like, and there's not a single female in that photograph. So it's great to hear that, grassroots moving from 9th grade up, that is starting to change. So that's great. Quick question, do you have an application process, or is it if students enroll, they enroll first come, first serve?
We do have an application process. Right now it's simply an online form, and it could be done by hand if that were a problem for any student, but it's not entirely rigorous. We haven't found a point yet where we're oversubscribed, so there's been no need to turn anyone away. We are selective in the sense that we check to make sure that the students who are applying have appropriate math levels, because that's the closest thing that ties to it. And we have had to delay students because of that, but then let them in, say, this year as opposed to last.
Can I ask, though, for that online application, is it an essay? Is it just a form with the name and student and classes taken, or what is it?
It's mostly the latter. It's name and classes taken. What math classes are you anticipating that you have taken and that you are anticipating that you'll be in next year, as well as any coding experience that you've had. Although that's not required, it just helps us place them more.
All right, thank you. Good work.
Ms. Limon.
I usually don't ask questions until the end, but I just want to follow up on that comment. Do you feel that your application has somehow influenced what I look at as a little bit more proportionality than I've seen in other academies? I mean, your diversity is actually one of the stronger ones as far as academy. Do you feel that the application that you've done has, or that you have students do, has contributed to that in some way, or do you think that there's another element involved?
That's a very good question, and I have to admit I haven't really thought of it in those terms. I'm not sure. I'd have to think about that more carefully. I don't know that the application per se has influenced that. I would guess right now it's more word of mouth and just people wanting to try it out, and especially with the female population. Again, research suggests that if girls take it and their friends take it, it's kind of a snowball effect where I want to do it, I'm going to bring my friends, and then more and more of them do the same, and hopefully that'll get us to where we want to be.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Adelson.
I'd be curious if possibly, since it's an open academy, I remember when it was forming that was part of the idea, was that a student could take one class. There wouldn't be any, requirement that they continue if they weren't interested. So it's been open. And I think that's something also I wanted to ask you. Do you feel that having it, well, a couple things, having it be an open format has been a really good choice as far as what you've seen? And also, I know that you got an honors class approved for mobile, and whether that has been successful. And then just wondering, since the academy had to happen so quickly, was there infrastructure that hasn't happened because of the speed of that, and how is that going?
Yeah, okay, so being open, I think, has possibly allowed more students to say, hey, I can just try this and, make up my mind afterwards. And actually, I think that goes both ways. It allows more students to come in earlier if they want to, but on the other hand, at least for this past year, for this year's crop, last year's applicant group, what we saw was most people were applying as sophomores because they would take that class maybe not knowing what coding was all about, and then after having had a class, they thought, oh, I like this or I don't, and so that's when they make the decision and they apply at that point, which actually I think is a good thing, because I've had the reverse situation where students claim this is what they're going to do for a living, but they've never actually tried it before, and when they see it, they're, oh, maybe not. So it's good to be able to try before you buy, so to speak. As far as the honors approval for mobile, that was a big step because that's really our capstone class. It's something that you would take after the AP class, just because you need to know everything. Like AP is really sort of a beginning class, even though it's an AP class. I mean, beginning from the perspective of it's a equivalent of a beginning college course, and the mobile class builds on those concepts. So what I was seeing before was that some students weren't taking it because it wasn't weighted and it was going to bring their GPA down. But because it is an honors class, we now have both a CP and an honors version. So in theory, that shouldn't be an issue for either direction.
Good.
As far as infrastructure goes, we are currently doing pretty well. We have 2 labs now. We have a PC lab and a Mac lab, and we will need to refresh the hardware in there every few years. Most things, there's a few things that need to be taken care of still. One lab, after a year and a half, we're just finally getting our tech package put in, and I just had a meeting with some people today about that. So that's going to happen. A few other little facilities, things like I need to put in a ticket to get some networking checked to make sure that it's working the way it should, because it may or may not be. And an AC heating unit on the roof that needs checking too, but otherwise things are going pretty well.
No other questions. Thank you so much, and really appreciate all the information. Thank you.
Thank you.
We move on to, I believe, the MAD Academy.
Yes, Multimedia and Arts.
All right, thank you guys for having us up here. It's always good to share what we're doing and what's going on. So I think I'm going to have to try to make this really brief because of the time. So you've seen the report. I'm going to give you a couple of their highlights and strip out my totals thing here, so just be careful with this. All right, so we're in our 20th year. That's a highlight for us. So we've been around for a long time. At this point, we continue to offer an evolving program, which is important because the multimedia field continues to evolve rapidly. Some of the things that are important for us is continuing a relevant, motivating, engaging curriculum for our students, and providing marketable skills. That's a really important piece of our career tech component of that. The other thing that we've continued to do is provide that cross-curricular integrated project-based learning, which is really important for engaging kids and showing them the importance of the academics and how they relate to the skills that we're providing to them. So some of the continuing highlights is that 100% of our kids continue to graduate. 100% of our kids continue to meet the UC A through G requirements. About 99% of our kids pursue some sort of post-secondary education, which is really important as well. The other thing that we've just also realized is a lack of marketing on our point, because we really didn't see this before, is that our college prep kids will graduate with at least 24 college credits. That's the kids in the college prep track. If the kids who are on our AP track take all of our AP classes, they will graduate with at least 45 college credits if they pass the AP test in each of those classes. That's really huge that we've never even considered marketing and leveraging, because that's a really important part of helping all of our students, regardless of where they're at, to access college level classes and be prepared for what's going to happen next. Some of the other things that have been notable is that in the last 5 years, we have grown every single year from 150 kids 5 years ago to 330 this year. That is pretty rapid growth and has put strains on us, but it's also been fun and exciting in the process. In that process, we have seen our female student participation increase from about 25% to roughly 50% in our incoming classes this year. So that's a notable increase as well. At the same time, our Latino enrollment has increased every year, but with the additional growth of all students, the percentage hasn't changed that much. And so that's a very big area of focus for us, is that although we're increasing the number of Latinos in our program, we want to make sure that it starts to reflect that of the school. And so in talking with other academy directors, we're looking at best practices, trying to figure out what are the things that we're doing that are working, not working, and try to bring in some of those better best practices. Some of those best practices that have been working with us is we've been having our Spanish-speaking students run tours for Spanish-speaking families through Convivio. We've had 2 of those. We've had the junior highs, the feeder junior highs, bring up their RY and AVID classes for the last couple of years and run tours through our program, again with our students being the tour guides, and that's been important to see. We continue to utilize the support of community people, including ISIS, to reach out to Isis Castaneda, who's here in the audience, to reach out to families and provide that Spanish-speaking support, walk them through the application process. We have simplified our application process based on some of the comments and feedbacks we've seen from other academies to try to make that an easier approach for people. Although we continue to have the interview process, we ran Spanish language interviews last year to make it more accessible to families. And we are working on addressing how to increase the participation of all parents in our parent group by addressing things like looking at how we can provide childcare at parent meetings, looking at how we can possibly do Spanish-only meetings rather than interpreted meetings, and try to make it more accessible that way. So we do have a 9th grade this year for the first time, and that has 74 kids in it, and that's allowed us to leave room for about 20 students for next year's class. We also have a paper application that we've provided workshops for in both English and Spanish to make it more approachable for people, so we can actually have support in that process as well. And future goals that are not in the report that we've already submitted, some of the other things is that trying to figure out ways to address the barriers that the socioeconomic inequalities create in our community, providing open hours long after schools close for people to be able to access our labs and provide places for kids to do studying, things like that, providing opportunities for helping all kids to be able to choose their future. That's a really important piece for us. It seems like that's something that certain demographics take for granted, and not all demographics see that. They see limited dead ends, and that's something that we're focusing on and trying to figure out ways to provide support in that way as well. So in trying to make this as simple and short as possible and leaving out a bunch of stuff, I think that the important pieces for us is that there are a lot of things that are moving parts, and there's a lot of things that we're trying to do to work on those. Some of them haven't been successful, but we're not sitting on our laurels. We're looking at what's working and applying extra effort there, and we are looking at things that are working and doubling down. And we continue to desire and appreciate the support that the community is providing, as well as the school district, and looking for additional ways to continue to help our diversity efforts, because we know that that's important. It's actually something we talk about in every one of our interviews, is the value of diversity and the value and appreciation that that brings to the creative process and being competitive in the world that we're going to enter, or the kids are going to enter. So, thank you.
Thank you. Board, do we have any questions, comments? Mr. Herron.
You had two numbers for the gender situation. Females 25%, 2014-15, but 50% of the incoming class.
Not in 2014-15, going back 5 years ago.
Oh, 5 years
Yes,
ago, okay.
Yes.
And 50% of the incoming class. Of the 332 students, how many are basically are female, just general?
Okay, so, well, in our 9th grade class, it's actually 36 and 36. So it's dead even. In our 10th grade class, 51-41, so that's a 54%, 46%. Then it gets a little bit more skewed in the 11th grade class, 46 to 33, which is a 58 to 42%. And I can give you these numbers.
That's okay,
And then in the 12th grade, it's 47 to 36, which again is skewed at 57% to 43. So overall, we have 180 males and 149 females, which is 55 to 45. But again, in the lower classes is where we've seen the equity starting to see.
That seems to be the trend these days, is they trying to get female into this education process. So
yeah, and
thank you for your efforts.
A focus on programming too. Yeah. You have to do things to address that. Yeah. So, thank you.
Ms. Idelson.
So is it new this year that you're taking freshmen or
yes.
starting?
And this current year.
Right. And so what prompted that? Because I was always under the understanding that you had like a pre-MAD course for 9th grade, and then that fed in. But what's happening in that 9th grade year?
So what we've done with that 9th grade year is we took the pre-MAD program and we combined it with an English class to create that integrated curriculum, project-based learning once again. And the concern there was that students were coming to the school knowing that they wanted to be in the academy, and they were kind of just spinning their wheels for a year waiting for it to happen. And we were a little bit afraid that some of the efforts that we were putting into the junior highs to recruit a diverse student population was being lost as they just sat around almost for a year waiting. And so we were hoping that that would address some of that. So,
and do you see that will be a successful aspect to it?
Well, I think that we're hopeful. But
okay.
At the same time, what we're also concerned with is that now that we don't have all these kids for a year to work with our counselors to do that, we're going to rely more heavily on the junior high counselors to help with the recruitment process, and teachers at the junior highs to ensure that all kids have access and knowledge of the program to get them into the application process. Because truly what it is there's a lack of diversity in the application process, which therefore leads to a lack of diversity in the enrollment process.
And do you do interviews for that application?
We do, yeah. Okay. We do an interview process both in English and in Spanish.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
No other questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And then finally, it's the Vada Academy.
Thanks for the chance to report out tonight. My name is Daniel Barnett. I'm the director of the Visual Arts and Design Academy, and I'm also going to try to keep this pretty succinct since you've seen the report, and I'll pull out a few highlights. You know that VADA is a partnership academy, so it's career tech ed, it's college and career readiness together, not one or the other. And you probably know that it's not just art, it's art and design, first of all, obviously because of the name, but also English, science, and history are integrated in, just like kind of Dan talked about, the integrated projects, cross-curricular kind of integration, bringing creativity into the curriculum. Is kind of the key thing that we're doing, basically wanting to wrap a student's high school education around something that they actually care about. I think like what we love about the academy is it's sort of the best case of differentiated instruction, because the kid gets to attach it to something they really care about. And I think we're in our about 15th full years of the program, so it's not a flash in the pan, and it's stable, it's consistent, and we're really proud of a lot of the things that we're seeing here. I'm particularly proud of the growth we've seen in diversity. I actually pulled out 2012's report, this version of the report in 2012, and in that year, our seniors, like our Latino students were at 22% of our program, and that was a number that we kind of were languishing at for, honestly, probably 7 years or something like that when I was looking back at statistics. The 11th grade that year was 42, and 10th grade was 45, and ever since we've been in the mid-40s, and you can see the numbers are pretty consistent. So I can come and tell you that this is not a statistical fluke. We're really happy about the sustainability of that, and I think you've seen our diversity plan and just the work that we've done on that, and it's really paying off, and it's exciting. Because we also, like Dan was saying, we just really believe in the value of diversity. I mean, I see in my classroom every day that kind of the transaction of social, creative, and cultural kind of assets that our students bring, and that it really is important. There's some other really interesting, I mean, you could look at diversity by a lot of different measures for our program, and those are there, so I won't go into them in detail. We're also excited about the addition of the 9th grade. That's a new thing for us. We've also had a pre-VADA program, kind of a standalone class. This year, like with Matt, it's partnered with an English class where we can do collaboration and basically give students kind of a sampling of what they'll get in the 10th grade. When they add in science and history to their curriculum. The Partnership Academy is only funded 10th through 12th grade from the state, so we are kind of picking up the tab on that, but just the same as Matt, it's like, why would we wait? We've got kids that are here, they want to do this. We can go further if they start earlier, and they're excited about it, so that's our goal in school is that. So. One of the important things that we're doing is creative industry in town, and some not in town, working with them to guarantee that our students are kind of getting to taste what it's like to work after high school and doing things in our classroom that are relevant to the kind of work that they'll do after high school if they go into a creative career. So like last week we were at Deckers, the UGG brand, taking a tour with their design team kind of from start to finish, and those are just, my students say, and we go to like 12 field trips a year. I mean, a lot of field trips, every major cultural institution we're pretty much at, and when kids get to kind of envision their future by going and seeing people working and kind of seeing themselves in that role, it's really, really powerful. So that's important. Let's see. The application process has been a topic, so I'll just talk about that. We have ours available online and in paper. It's in English and Spanish. Spanish in paper. I don't think we have an online Spanish application. I don't think we've ever gotten an application filled out in Spanish. And a student really needs to be kind of at capacity in English to, I think, to be successful in the program. But we want our families to be able to read the application and help and know what it says, and so that's why those things are all in place. There's instructions on how to apply in both languages. We don't do an interview in the kind of formal sense. We kind of view the application and the short answer questions. They answer 4 short answer questions. We look at a few work samples, although we've changed it from the word portfolio to work samples just to keep. We just don't want there to be any barriers for kids to apply. Nothing that will intimidate them or keep them from, putting their application in. We're working closely with the junior high now, since our recruiting practices have basically been sort of moved off of our campus. This year we're focusing mostly with the junior high, but Santa Barbara Junior High, but we'll be doing that in our other feeder schools. Yeah, I'll just say something I've really appreciated, something I've noticed the last couple of years, is a more collective approach to, both in the district and at our school site, for supporting the academies and promoting them to students, and that has been really appreciated from our kind of core admin team. For the future, we'd love to, and we've already been a part of some early conversations about just some facility updates that are necessary for the program to kind of reach its full potential. And just sort of filling out that 9th grade expansion to its full potential, since it's kind of in a building year right now. And really, just the other major focus for us is curriculum development and the professional development that teachers need to do a good job developing creative, integrated curriculum. And there's other things too. I'm going to just stop there, though, I think, and give you guys a chance to ask any questions that you have.
Mr. Herron.
Yes. Do you have a general idea of the breakdown between male and female?
Yeah, I do, actually. And this has been pretty consistent over the years, within probably about 5%. Right now, the group is 65% female and 35% male. And we've always had more ladies in the program than men. And I'll just say one other thing. Because we know that's been a consistent pattern, we have developed our program around that in a certain way. Like we also have a speaker series bringing professionals into the program. So this year we had an artist, Yara Al-Sherbini, was talking to us this fall, a successful artist. Also Maria Rendon, successful illustrator. So you know, exposing our young ladies to these successful entrepreneur, creative women that are managing families and their professional life has been not accidental.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments, board?
Do you have a plan to get more males?
Actually, it's up a little in the 9th grade right now.
Okay.
No other comments? Oh, Ms. Parker.
Thank you. I think that you've heard what everybody's been talking about and addressed a lot of questions that we might have come up with preemptively, so I appreciate that. Just in general, you know, it came up at the last meeting as well. Again, I think it's important to add gender to the student demographic piece, and then maybe even have an attachment that shows the application process or you know, recruitment practices should spell that out more clearly. But I think it'd be great to see that. I suspect that the less complicated an application is, the more likely it is that students will actually apply. They have complicated lives too. Yep. And so I feel like we do put barriers up the more layers that we add to an application process, and that you know, we're seeing that the simpler the application is, the more likely it is that anybody will just, you know, I'll try it and think about that. So thank you.
I totally agree. Yeah, thank you, and thanks for your 15 years of support, because it's been a lot of fun.
Thanks. With that, we move on to item 5, which is now our new item number 2.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Thank you very much, Santa Barbara High School. Those are 3 wonderful programs of choice for our community.
Thank you.
And I want to say during the basketball game, which...
Thank you.
So with that, we'll ask Todd Rickman to come forward to introduce his team.
Dr. Cash, President Paz, board members, I'd like to bring up our iLearn professional learning team to kind of just give you a brief overview of what we've been doing this past year.
Thank you.
Oh, am I first? Okay. Okay, so my name's Dave Lovejoy. We have Gina Pierce, Spencer, and Amy. The elementary technology position is a new position this year. It was created in order to get a better perspective of the elementary curriculum as well as elementary teachers' perspective. And there's some new structures in place because of that. Some of these, well, actually, I'd say the biggest factor and the biggest thing I've been doing as an elementary tech coach is building relationships, lowering the affect that teachers have and how they perceive technology, as well as understand the challenges that they face. So building those relationships has, you know, and with the site administrators has really helped the impact I can have. Some of the plans and structures in place for how the technology is supported for teachers is one-on-one tech coaching, which I have a tech calendar which teachers can schedule one-on-one appointments, either with their grade like a team where during a PLC meeting or after school meetings, or which is something that I found really successful, a co-teaching experience. This has provided teachers support in a relative position of being in their own classroom with their own students. It also really values the teacher's time, as it doesn't take time after school, and really kind of holds their hands in some way as a model to understand how the technology is integrated in the classroom. I also do professional developments for sites or for PLC just for grade levels. And some of the other, we also have 2 integrators for every grade level. This was a way to better differentiate what applications teachers are getting, so they're not so generalized. Every grade level's technology applications are age appropriate and grade appropriate, so it integrates really well to what they are teaching. The tech integrators get about 15 minutes at every PLC meeting to do a presentation to that grade level's teachers. And that is, what was I going to say? And that is basically based on, actually I'll talk about why we do that in a little bit. But I think I talked about, and then I also have a website which collects all the resources that we've gathered for teachers to go over presentations, to get technology applications and anything else that we find.
Good evening. I'm Gina Pierce.
You just have to be very firm with it and pull it down. It will bend. You did it.
Okay. I'm Gina Pierce. I'm the tech coach out at Dos Pueblos High School and Santa Barbara Junior High. And just to kind of go over the secondary program for you, we have myself, Amy McMillan, Spencer, and Helen. We're all tech coaches for the secondary. So it's Dave Lovejoy is the elementary, so there's one of him, but there's 4 of us. So basically what we do is we kind of oversee all of the professional development that we're offering, all the secondary sites. So how it runs is we're calling them iLearn workshops, and they are one Thursday. It's the 3rd Thursday of each month during PLC time. So now it's built into the day, unlike what it was before, where teachers had to come in and volunteer their own time, either after school or on at Dos Pueblos. We had the Wednesday late start, so they would come in during that time, but now it's built into the day. And we have, instead of just us doing the presentations, the coaches, we now have the whole team actually doing presentations. So we have a variety of workshops that are offered that teachers can then choose from to get some tech support. And so those run about 50 minutes. And then, as I said, there's a variety of topics that are offered. And then we also provide one-on-one help during that time as well. And then there's always ongoing one-on-one help, either with me or they can set up and go see one of the integrators or mentors to get extra support. Okay. So how do we determine what we offer? So this is the secondaries from the secondary perspective. What you see here is a Google form, and this changes every month depending on the offerings that we have. We do get teacher feedback. So one of the top questions up there, it says, is there a topic you would like to see a training on that you don't see here? So every month they can input something like, I'd really like to see iMovie, if iMovie is not on there. But you can see in this section right here, those are the bigger sessions that they can sign up for. So this particular month out at Dos Pueblos High School, we had a tech potluck where you would bring your own idea, and they would come kind of like an unconference style where you could bring a strategy or something involving technology, and then it would be kind of like a share out. So we're trying to change it up every month. We also have more kind of formal ones, like we had databases. We also had digital storytelling using iMovie. So we have a variety of things that we're offering that they can sign up for based on what we've heard teachers' wants are, just through indirect conversations or through the survey. And then there's also at the top where they can sign up for individual one-on-one help. So they could have signed up with me, with PDF Expert, or with Maggie Mason, Neo, and Google Doc help. So they can get the one-on-one support there. And then we also have a section right here at the bottom where they can check if they want to have a wingman and they're interested in having someone from the team go to one of their classes to offer or help them while they're integrating technology into their curriculum. So we could kind of be like, not necessarily the co-teaching as in the elementary, but we could be there to support them as they're integrating technology. We also have a box to get our TOSAs involved. So since this is during PLC time, they can also sign up to have either the ELA, the math, or the science TOSA come to their PLC and kind of talk with them and work with them with curriculum. So, and then at the bottom of every form, we always are asking for their feedback. Were there any challenges? What did you find valuable? So we can constantly kind of check in with them every month to make sure that we're meeting their needs.
We also have Google feedback forms for elementary presented at the PLC meetings, which teachers can input what technology applications would best support them. And I also collect verbal consensus from teachers at these PLC meetings from the integrators. Yeah, and I meet with the tech integrators once a month to give them a PD, and they also use each other as resources to collaborate on like presentations. Oh, just go next.
Okay, hello everyone. I'm Spencer Barr from Santa Barbara High School, technology coach. So what we've seen, we've definitely had some growth in the Tech Coach program and our iLearn program. So last year there were 3 of us, myself, Gina, and Helen, and over the end of the summer we added Amy McMillan and Dave Lovejoy to expand our team. And so what we've seen, I'm going to go over our attendance and how it's grown over the last couple of years. So first of all, some positives. We now have our iLearn workshops and our trainings during the school day built into the PLC time. So we've seen an increase in attendance because of that. A very large increase, as you'll see in the next few slides. We've also seen more consistency with the district in terms of every school is participating the same way. We have multiple and a vast variety of training sessions at all sites. And then because of that, we have more participation, more attendance, and then more buy-in and enthusiasm at the sites. I'll speak specifically for myself at Santa Barbara High School. I didn't have great attendance at my sessions last year, and I have a staff of 100, and if I'm getting 10% or so, there's not enough of a collective buy-in and enthusiasm that we've now seen this year. A few drawbacks just before I get to some graphs. The elementary teacher tech time is very limited. It's after school, it's only about 15 minutes, one Wednesday a month, so 15 minutes is not a lot of time. And then the other drawback that we've really seen is that because it's during PLC time, our secondary teachers, our junior high and our high school teachers have to choose. Do I go to my PLC today or do I go to this iLearn workshop? And so for fantastic and well-running PLCs, that can be a real struggle for a lot of teachers to decide what to go to. So, Brian, next one. So we're going to go through these really quick. We have statistics from all the sites. Based on last year is in blue, this year is in green. On the far left, we have overall percentage of our staffs, how many have participated in at least one, and then you see the numbers there in blue and green, our overall growth between last year and this year. Okay, next slide. So again, we'll go through these. Again, a huge growth between last year and this year in terms of participation. Next slide, Brian. So those are 3 comprehensive public high schools. And then again, La Cuesta, Alta Vista, Quetzal. We didn't really have a program in place last year to take attendance, and it was more simply just drop in. And now that we have attendance being taken at all our workshops, we can see the percentage of participation. And then at the junior highs, same thing. The program we had in place last year was simply drop-in basis. And now that we have those structured times, you can see the numbers that we have. And then Lacumba did things a little bit differently last year, which is why they have 2 sets of data point, fall of 2014 and fall of 2015. They had basically a requirement of teachers doing tech time in a lot of their workshops. Release day. Their release day, yeah. And then Santa Barbara Junior High, sorry, I apologize, this is in blue rather than green, but this is this year's fall data. And then elementary schools, we didn't have really anything in place with the exception of drop-in stuff last year. Now, because of Dave Lovejoy, every single teacher gets tech time and these iLearn workshops. So that's why we have 100% participation.
Hi, I'm Amy McMillan. I work mostly at Glida Valley Junior High and La Colina Junior High. I'm the last slide, and we've mentioned this before, but we offer one-on-one coaching in secondary too, and we love it. It allows us to differentiate for individual teachers, spend as much time as they need or as little time as they want. We can talk to them formally, informally. It's been great. We can only think of one drawback, and that's just the potential for some teachers to think of us as a help desk or just someone who's going to fix the issue, and what we want them to do is become more self-reliant. That said, some of our best moments have come when we do an iLearn workshop, and then a week or so later, a teacher comes up to us in the hallway and says, I tried that strategy or that tool, and now I have questions. Let's talk some more about it, and then we can go a little bit deeper into the tool or the strategy. That's it.
Questions from board members? Comments?
Ms. Limon?
So thank you for the feedback. So shout out to Spencer Barr, great Facebook updates and posts, by the way. So I just had to say that. And the other thing related to the presentation is you have such little time with teachers and you take feedback. What can you actually do with the feedback when you really are so limited on time? I mean, is it like big changes, or is it just minor things you change?
Well, we have two ways that we want feedback. One way is how was the last iLearn workshop, and what would you like to see next time during the PLC for secondary? And then also people ask for help individually, and then the coaches can meet with the teacher or one of the integrators or mentors.
Yeah. And I just want to reiterate, the PLC time isn't the only time we support teachers. I mean, in fact, most of the time I feel like I'm supporting teachers on the one-on-one or with the grade levels or with the PD for a site. So there's other opportunities to support staff, not just those
minutes. Okay, thank you.
Ms. Parker.
I just want to say thank you. It's wonderful to see how some restructuring and addition of personnel has made a difference, and how at least so many more teachers are being touched, because obviously that's what we want. We want to see teachers that know how to use the tools well, so that it makes a difference for kids in the classroom, and it's meaningful for us to have the technology that we do. And I really feel like you guys are a huge part of making that successful, so thank you. For the general public, you've talked about this before, but I just want to point out the website, ilearn.sbunified.org. Because there are members of our community in general, and obviously there are teachers all over the world that take a look at your resource, which you kindly point out, and that's kind of fun to see. And for parents, just to see what's going on, and for the community to see with all the ways they've supported technology through parcel taxes, I think that it is great for us all to know that we can go and take a look and see what you've gathered there too. So thank you.
And those are blog posts written by the integrators. So.
I just had a comment. I totally appreciate the fact that we're here future forward from the last time we had a presentation by you all. And what you've done is really taken the comments the board presented the last time and really integrated in what you were trying to do. And not only that, but trying to touch, as Ms. Parker was saying, trying to touch teachers in a lot of different ways, the formal versus the informal. And as you pointed out, it's not just the PLCs, it's the one-to-one opportunities you may have, even the informal ones that you may have in the hallway. And that is really critically important, I think, for all teachers. And they have to have those outlets and different ways of doing learning, I would say. And really taking that in consideration is a really big thing for me as a board member. And it's also really important for me to to emphasize, because I think that's the piece that we're all trying to do. You all as teachers are trying to touch students in different ways in the way that they learn best, and you've really done that with the teachers as well, and so I really appreciate that. And it really shows in the numbers, I believe, that you guys are really doing that sort of change in perspective, and you're really learning from that. So all of the feedback is really being put into practice, and that's another, for me, a really good point to bring out in the work that you're doing. That really is, you're looking at the work and really critically analyzing it, not just to say, oh, we're doing it, look, the numbers, but really going even beyond that and really recognizing that it's not just increasing the numbers, but truly trying to respond to what teachers' needs are as they change through time. So I think that's really important to bring out as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Board, any other comments or questions? Thank you all. Thank you for being here a little later.
Thank you.
I just want to publicly thank they're incredible. They teach, they do this, they're they're just an amazing group. So
yes.
Thank you guys very much. And,
Thank you.
Tell Helen, thank you.
With that, we move to item number, our original 2, which now is number 3, Early Education Strategic Plan Update.
Dr. Ramirez and Ms. Robertson are prepared to present this to the board.
Good evening, Board. I want to again introduce Ms. Robertson, who will be our preschool coordinator, who will be leading us through a big portion of this, and I'll kind of jump in as things come up.
Good evening, trustees. Excuse my voice. I may ask Dr. Ramirez to help jump in if I totally lose it, but I'm here to talk about an update of the strategic plan for early education and support. Go to the next slide. Just as a review, it's been a year now since our preschool summit, which was held last March, and out of that came a early education strategic plan for 3 years, 2015 to 2018. The top 4 goals out of that were to really delve into the infant and toddler areas, 0 to 3. Also to outreach to the community about the importance of the first 5 years of development, and in particular early literacy and how that correlates to 3rd grade reading scores and success later on. Also, we were starting to explore our partnership with special ed and how we were going to become more inclusive classrooms, as well as start to identify delays in children's development as early as possible, and of course to promote our #1 strategy, which is preschool enrollment. So we know that we can't make any progress in early childhood without engaging families. And there's lots of research around that. We know that we need an ecological approach to child development with the child in the center and the family and the other contributing factors being addressed as well. So there's lots of things happening in our community around healthy habits, around protective factors, and around literacy. So we're really looking at all of those things that currently exist. Did you want to add anything about family engagement?
Yes, just to add to the discussion around family engagement, again, to come back to conversation we've had in the past around our family engagement framework for the district, which is aligned to the state framework. It is inclusive of early childhood, and in fact, it's really of the entire 0 to 5 space.
Okay. Also, in terms, you can go to the next slide, Brian. In terms of looking at those developmental delays as early as possible, I just wanted to highlight one research point in particular, and that's the bottom one, that it is estimated that 10 to 15% of all typically developing preschool children have chronic mild to moderate levels of behavior problems. So in preschool, you've probably read articles about expulsion and suspension, and you think, oh my gosh, people are expelling preschoolers. But typically, early mental health needs of children under the age of 5 have not really been looked at. And so as we have been partnering with CALM the last couple years, with our other partner, Family Service Agency, we're really starting to pinpoint how important it is to identify this early so that they are able to fully participate in curriculum in kindergarten. So typically in our preschool programs, we use what's called the Ages and Stages Questionnaire, 3rd edition, as well as the Ages and Stages Questionnaire Social Emotional. And this is a tool that has been well known throughout our county. Many early childhood programs use it. It's been very successful. It's written at about a 3rd grade reading level, so parents can participate, and it's in English and Spanish, and it has developmental stages every 2 months, so it matches a child's age specifically. So our 2 big focus areas in the strategic plan are preschool and what we call family, friend, and neighbor. So from a First 5 Santa Barbara parent survey that was done a couple of years back, it was found that more than 50% of parents who reported that their children were cared for by someone other than themselves during the day indicated that their children were in unlicensed settings, a further indication of the need for quality childcare in preschool. And so oftentimes children, because of the cost or because of the lack of spaces available to them, will choose a family, friend, and neighbor option. Oftentimes that family, friend, or neighbor doesn't have really a lot of training around child development, let alone school readiness strategies to help promote. So whereas we have successfully provided a preschool program for the last 20 years, we have not yet delved into the family, friend, and neighbor, where actually most of infants and toddlers reside during the day. So with that, we have a proposed new strategy, which we're calling the School Readiness Mobile Lab. The goal is to offer high-quality learning experiences for those family, friend, and neighbors in a very intentional way, and also to recognize that not everybody chooses preschool, that we can offer preschool, but some people just choose not to use it. And then there is a substantially low number of infant toddler center-based spaces in town. So we really do want to focus in on that other caregiver group. So there is an evidence-based model that's been around for quite a while, coming out of First 5 California. It's a mobile van, very much the size of our current mobile Waterford van, and they kind of go around and they provide specifically literacy activities with children. So they'll go into a neighborhood or they'll go into a child care center, and they'll do this intentional literacy campaign. Okay. Additionally, there is a simultaneous campaign out right now called Let's Talk, Read, Sing Together. It's also developed by First 5. It's focused strictly on literacy and language development, and it's meant to be a 2-generational approach to this. So the parent or the caregiver and the child participates together instead of just focus on the child or just focus on the parent. So our strategy is to take the current Waterford van and develop a model that meets all of the needs of our strategic plan, as well as aligns with our district goals. So in your packets, you actually got a more detailed handout of what that proposal looks like. Definitely the year-round scope would include that we're always recruiting for our early childhood programs. We really, again, want to focus in on 0 to 3 providers. This is an opportunity because the success of the mobile Waterford van has been the outreach and presence in neighborhoods, that we want to build on that, but see it as more of a connection to our school district as a whole. And so that would include any TK or up to grade 12 information, assistance with forms, enrollment packets, recruitment for our community of schools programs, including our parent education opportunities. Also utilizing it to get community input for programming. So we're out there on the street hearing from the people on a daily basis. And then kind of being the point person for the district, like if there's a question out there, somebody can say, I'll find that out for you and I'll get back to you. So really strengthening the home-school connection.
Ms. Lima.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're going to do one more slide about that, so I don't know if I should. I have a question, so.
Yeah.
Is it okay?
Yeah.
Okay. My question is, so what are the top 3 differences between what we know as the mobile Waterford and the new
model? Okay. Mm-hmm. Do you want to talk to that, or you want me to talk to that? Okay. So right now, the mobile Waterford is really focused around a computer-based program, the Waterford Institute's software. And when it began 7 years ago, there was a waiting list for early childhood programs in our district. There was also a need to really address English language acquisition, and a previous superintendent thought that this would, be a good thing to try out. And what happens on the van is a child comes on from a neighborhood. They get on the van, they put on their headphones, and they're on the program for 20 minutes. Then they get off, and they come back either the next day or the next week or however. So what this is it's more of a holistic approach. So we're addressing literacy, we're addressing the protective factors of families. 2 programs that we've had in the past are Avance and Hippie. And 2 of the things that parents miss the most from that are the social connections and building that school readiness with their child. And so this, we believe, will bring that a little bit of that back, because we'll be looking at the 2-generational approach. And we'll not only be we won't be using a computer-based program. We'll actually be doing the talk, read, sing, which research has showed builds language development.
Okay, so what I'm hearing now is that whether it's the child or the parent that walks in, there is some level of engagement for both, not just on literacy, on other factors. Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, so our next steps, if you approve the plan, would be to repurpose the mobile Waterford van. This handout that I gave on the back is kind of the beginning of a scope of work for what that outreach staff would be looking at doing. We would definitely be working very closely with our community-based partners to develop a calendar of, say, October is Health Month, that we're going to be promoting health and wellness that month, and April's the month of the young child. We're going to be promoting stuff around that month. So we'll continue to refine the scope and look at our targeted neighborhoods, and not just our targeted neighborhoods, but our targeted places where families congregate, such as WIC offices. I've been working really closely with the Santa Barbara Housing Authority this year and developing some ideas around that, with the hope of launching it in the fall.
Any questions, board? Ms. Parker.
I'll be really curious. I mean, it seems like a great idea, and I'm impressed with how much work has gone into this. And do you have a hope of how many children you would reach?
Currently, we're reaching between 60 and 70 on the Waterford van. Some of those children, of course, will be going on to kindergarten. But we have, I'm going to look at Dr. Paz, how many births do we have at Cottage Hospital each year?
Thousands.
Thousands.
Yeah.
So, we'll be hoping to reach many.
As you're going to, let's say, a place where you're going to meet, and it looks from this like the idea would be an hour twice a week.
Yeah.
In certain areas. And is there a maximum number? I assume there would be like a maximum number of children and parents that could come and get involved.
I think once it starts going, that we'll have planned sessions. So like there'll be like a 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock session, and then we'll probably see what's the max for effectiveness.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
I have a couple of questions, or maybe comments. One is that this reminds me of one of the meetings I attended for the Special Education Advisory Committee in our district, probably more than a year ago. And one of the comments that I heard a few parents, this was at Adams School and it was there, and a couple parents were commenting how much they didn't know about in terms of information around special education. And so it was like, and then they were talking to each other, and I didn't want to jump in because I didn't want to kind of like, okay, I'm putting my social worker hat on for a little bit and talk to someone. But part of that was my realization that a lot of parents just didn't have enough information, especially before they get into the school district, and that this would, as proposed, even provide that opportunity for certain parents, who come into contact with the van, to have more information and provide them information about how their child's going to transition into pre-K and then eventually into kindergarten. That would be wonderful, because at least it fulfills that void in terms of information out there. And I think in particular, when you're mentioning the use of ages and stages, and one of the things that you started to touch briefly, but you kind of moved on from it, is that even that tool in and of itself is an opportunity for parents to know more about the typical development of their child. And that provides an opportunity for parents to know more. So that can be done parents could do it. And if you've never done it, I've looked at them, obviously, in lots of different ways. And it's a great tool in lots of different ways, because it does remind you, as if you're a new parent and you don't know what's happening with their child, you go through all the questions and you go, is my child, they're great over here. They may be really good in fine motor, not so good in gross motor. In terms of typical, in terms of language development. And so it provides another learning opportunity for parents to know. And I think this would be a great opportunity to do that, to build that connection, especially, I would say, if you haven't thought about it, or maybe you have, but that connection with special education is great. And then I think the other part that I was thinking as you were presenting, other opportunities would be, the Day in the Park opportunity, that you could take the van and present it there, or even Earth Day, when you have those opportunities for the district to not only take it to engage parents who are going to come into the district in terms of pre-K and kindergarten, but even as a whole, to think about it as an outreach tool for the district, especially for parents who don't know and have a lot of questions and just never really had that opportunity to ask. So I see it as a great opportunity in that respect, and I would encourage you to maybe think about those different things that were popping in my brain when we were talking. So thank you for the presentation. I really appreciate it.
I think the possibilities are really endless of how we can utilize it.
Yes.
And if I could just make one point, to touch on the point of communication, having worked with extensively with Latino families last year, particularly through DLAC and ELAC. There is, just to validate your point about a lot of incomplete information, misinformation about programs that are offered, about just how to onboard and really support families as they make that transition, especially as at that early age where many parents don't have that full understanding that really learning begins really at that age, and that we can be very intentional.
Yeah.
To reiterate, I think this particular approach capitalizes on many of the strengths of the previous Waterford program, while still expanding and being a nexus between a number of different initiatives that we have: parent engagement, early literacy, connectedness, and outreach to families, particularly those that we find are consistently those that are perhaps the least informed or have the least access to information, and being very intentional about that process. So we feel very strongly that this is a rebrand that capitalizes on the efforts of the past, while still providing us a springboard into many of the things that we've embarked upon here recently.
Thank you. Appreciate it. No other questions? Thank you so much.
Thanks. Thank you.
Now we move on to item number 3, presentation of the Santa Barbara Unified School District's Local Education Agency Plan Addendum.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. As board members are aware, this is an obligation that our district's required to engage in. It's interesting how many plans we are required to submit. And at some point, it's anticipated that plans like this would be subsumed into an LCAP process, or at least there is a great hope that that will happen. In the meantime, Dr. Ramirez will present our addendum to the Local Education Accountability Plan.
Thank you, Dr. Cash. Board, I wanted to just take the opportunity to also acknowledge the work of many people that have come together, particularly this year, to really make this process really come into play, because our discussion today will center not only on the Local Education Agency Plan Addendum, but also really on processes that we're currently undertaking. So just to provide you a little bit of background, there you have, and I won't belabor the point, but it really, this addendum is a component of the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, also known as No Child Left Behind, which has recently sunset, or not so recently, but has sunset. At this point, we are actually in what is a new era, which is an era of every student succeeds. And that act was signed into law last December, this past December of 2015, and its full enactment really will be as of 16-17. There are still a number of different components and elements around accountability that the State Board of Education will have to really work through in their relationship with the federal government. With that said, this year we are actually what's called on cycle. We are actually under federal program review, and this next slide tells you a little bit about that. We will be going through our official audit, if you will, our official review coming up in April. We've been very diligently working this entire year to bring together all of our different artifacts and pieces of evidence that span every single department. And you have the exact programs that are under review: compensatory education, before and after school programs, English learner programs, fiscal monitoring, improving teacher quality, and uniform complaint procedures. Those are all the programs that are currently under federal review. They span everything from board policies all the way through expenditures reports, and they really, and I really want to take that opportunity to acknowledge the tremendous work of all the individuals that have come together as a committee to pull this work together, including the 3 sites that are represented, that are under review specifically: Dos Pueblos High School, Santa Barbara High School, and La Cumbre Junior High School. So it's been very labor intensive, but it's provided us a great opportunity to really work cross-departmentally and work in conjunction with our school sites to be able to really get to a process that helps us not only be compliance-oriented, but really more so than that, because we know that changes will be coming. We want to really use that as an opportunity to shore up areas where we could be doing better and be more coherent. So this has been a great opportunity to do just that. In terms of our addendum, these are listed in the next two slides, are the specific areas of the LEA plan that are of the addendum. I won't go through each one, but I will say that it is, as we've looked at this process, it really is a crosswalk between a document that is more or less of a different era, the Local Education Agency Plan, and our LCAP. So what you'll see in the addendum is that it really is many of the actions and areas of focus addressed specifically in LCAP that we are currently using federal funding to help support as part of our total program. Just another point of clarification, if you can go 2 slides over. Just a point of clarification that a board action is required, and there will need to be an approval of the addendum at some point in time. But at this point, I just want to open it up to any questions or recommendations or next steps that you may suggest.
Board, any questions? Ms. Parker?
Just in looking at the addendum, we've been so focused on the LCAP, and so essentially the addendum just includes the elements of the LCAP, no surprises. Correct?
Absolutely.
And my other question is, on the review, do they actually send a person here, or is it all done where you are submitting documents?
So it's actually done in 2 ways. This year we are on an online cycle, so we will have to submit all of our evidence and documentation into the California Monitoring Tool, CMT, and that is now live as of January, and we are actively putting all of our evidence into that portal. So there will be, and we've been in close contact with the Department of Education, because every single one of those areas, every single one of those programs has a reviewer aligned to it, and that person works remotely to certify our evidence and give us feedback on where we are. At the end of this cycle, in April, as of April 22nd, we're expecting that we will have a comprehensive report that then tells us how we've done and what areas we need to focus on for the future. The unknown in this process is the transition to the Every Student Succeeds legislation will entail, and how many of those ongoing components will actually continue to be viable into 16-17. So that will be the big mystery. But I think internally we've used it as a very organic process, although very labor-intensive still, and we know that we're kind of taking a look back. We still are using it as a great learning opportunity to really understand how we as a district office can better support the sites, because we know that federal funding will continue. It will just, and it will still continue in the supplement, not supplant role. So that's one of the key takeaways for us.
Board, any other questions, comments? No. Thank you, Dr. Ramirez and staff, for all that information.
I just want to summarize, it's an extraordinarily labor-intensive process. We have 4, 5, 6 people have worked several hundred hours to date on this. So.
Sounds like another requirement that we're expected to do.
Well, maybe, if we get some good legislators up in Sacramento, stuff like that
we may know someone.
May change.
We'll find out soon enough. If there is no other discussion on this item, we have come to the end of our agenda, at least for conference agenda. Next up is coming events. Do we have any? Other than that, we have a meeting tomorrow night here at 6 p.m. Any future agenda items? Mr. Herron?
I'd presume, based upon the public comments tonight, that we might have a report on the issue of curriculum councils at some point.
Since that's the first that was shared with me, I'm certain we'll have a response for you.
Okay. I don't have a future agenda item. As one thing I've asked Dr. Cash to look into is at least once a month having one presentation done by students at one of our board meetings, so that we always have something present in the start of our board meetings to remind us of why we're doing the work we're doing. And I thought that would be a good idea. So I have asked them to think about that and figure out how best we can incorporate that into one of our board meetings at least once a month.
Yes, well, both Dr. Ramirez and Dr. Drotti will be working with their principal colleagues to schedule that.
Thank you. There's nothing else?
One other reminder is that March 15th will be the joint meeting with Santa Barbara City College and the Carpinteria Unified School District. It will be at Santa Barbara City College. The meeting will start at 4 p.m.
Is same space that it was been held in before or not?
We talked a
decided?
lot about that, but there just simply isn't. We have 17 board members that attend. So we're going to, Lori, Dr. Gaskin is going to try and make it a little more user-friendly.
Sorry, remind me of the date, March?
15th.
15th.
Okay, 4 p.m.
If there are no other things to discuss, no future agenda items, I'd like to adjourn today's meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.